Hi everyone! Today we'll be creating a virtual soundboard app using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's go ahead and get started.
Now, to create this app, we need to have our Visual Studio Code opened. And let's go ahead and navigate to an open folder or a new folder, in our case, by clicking in on the Explorer tab right here and click Open Folder. So let's say we'll create a new folder on our desktop right here. So click in New Folder and let's name this as Virtual Soundboard App and select this folder. Now inside our newly created folder right here, let's create 3 files. One for our HTML, which we will call our index.html. Another file for our style sheet, which we will call styles.css. And lastly, script.js for our JavaScript file. Now let's first focus on how the structure of our application will look like and start adding in an HTML code for this one. And to do that, let's create our boilerplate by clicking in or typing in exclamation mark and then pressing enter and create our first document right here. Let's rename this document, or let's change the title to our Virtual Soundboard App. And let's go ahead and open this in live server so that we can visualize what we are doing in our codes right here. So let's position them side by side right here. And let's shrink this like so. Now let's start coding. Inside our body, let's create a title or a heading that contains our title. Let's say that this is our own personalized soundboard. And it should display here big bold text or a big heading of hierarchy 1. Let's add in an attribute of class. And let's call this heading right here our main title. Now let's add in the image for our soundboard, which we will be getting from a public repository on GitHub. Let's add in an image source for this one and paste in the URL for the file from the repository. Now, if your codes get cut off like this, just press on Alt-Z to activate word wrapping, right? So let's place in an alt text for this when the image doesn't show. And let's make this more distinct by adding in an ID so that we can call this later. Let's place in a value of maybe a pad for this one. So this is our pad image right here. Let's call this div our image div, since this div only contains the first image or the image for our soundboard. Now let's create another div that will contain this time our audio files. So let's call this the audio div. Let's put in an ID of audio. So, and let's add in our first audio using the audio tag and audio source. Now, for this audio, we will also be getting the raw file from a public repository on GitHub. So this will be our first sound effect for our key right here. Now, for which key will we be putting this sound into? That's where we will put in another attribute called data key. So data keys are actually like key codes for certain keyboard presses or certain keys on our keyboard. Now, to navigate or to know which data key corresponds to which key of the keyboard, let's search in keyboard key codes on Google and click this link right here. And we can see that some of the keys or the alphabet keys in our keyboard correspond to certain key codes, right? So for example, for E, it has a key code of 69. For F, it has a key code of 70, right? So let's first create an audio for when we press key E, right? So this is, let's denote this as our E key, right? And it should play a certain audio like this. Now for the other keys, let's go ahead and add in some more audios as well. So I'll just copy and paste some of the audios. So we have here several keys like E, R, T, Y, D, F, G, H, C, V, B, and N. And each of these have unique files on them. So for example, on our R key right here, it contains a baby.mp3 audio. This one has a knock sound. This one has a sitcom laugh sound, and others as well. So later on, we can hear what those sound like. And that concludes our audio div right there. Now let's create other divs. So let's create one div for each key press that we will be creating later. So for example, for the E press, let's add in some attributes to this. So if we can remember, the data key for E is 69. And let's say that all our keys will have a class of key, right? Since they are all classified as keys. And let's also put in an ID here so we can be more descriptive that this div right here pertains to our E, right? Now, let's first add in some elements inside this, right? So this, let's do it this way. Let's add in a keyboard tag and pass in a value of E inside it so that we can add an E element in here. So for now, let's see here. For now, it's not showing since it is behind this image right here, right? So we can't see it yet. But let's go ahead and do this for all other keys. So let's just copy and paste this and change the key and key codes for each, and of course the ID as well. So let's do that real quick. Like so. So we have added in our R and its corresponding data key, and each keyboard tag is unique as well. So this pertains to the key presses that we will be entering later, right? So that's it for our HTML structure. Let's go ahead and style this up, right? So the first thing that we need to style is, of course, our title, right? It needs to be in the center. So to find that, if we can remember, we added in for our title a class of main title. So to select a class, we first enter in a dot and pass in the value, which is main title. Let's align the text to the center. as so. And as we can see, it didn't take effect yet since we haven't linked this file to our index.html. So to do that, let's put in a link tag to our app right here and put in the style sheet file like so. So we can see now that our soundboard is in the middle, right? Now the next thing that we need to style is our pads, or this thing right here. We also want it to be in the center, right? So let's put an absolute position of it right here. And let's say we want to move it to the center. So let's add some space from the left. Let's say 300 pixels. So let's see how that looks. So not quite there yet. So maybe let's add in 50 more. See how that looks. That looks to be about in the center for me. So let's leave it at that. Maybe we can add in some space from the top as well. Not too much, maybe just pixels, like so. And that looks pretty good to me. So now that we have moved the image to the center right here, right, we can see that the keys that we inputted for this KBD elements that we added to the HTML earlier are now showing, right, since they are not behind our image anymore. So let's go ahead and place some designs to our keys right here, and let's go ahead and do that. So to select those, they have this class right here, right, the key class, each of them. So to put styles on all of them, let's just select their class, right? So let's again add their position to be absolute so that we can add in some attributes like their dimensions, right? Like height. Let's say that this will be 32 pixels by 32 pixels. So they will be squares, right? And what happened when we added this line right here? So they became relative to their parent element, which is the whole body of this HTML tag. So right now they are on the starting point of the body tag right here. All of them, all of the letters are clumped together, so we can't quite see them yet, right? So for now, let's leave it at that and position each letter later on each key of our soundboard here, right? So let's first increase their font size, right? And maybe we want them to be equal, so let's just add in an EM right here, which will multiply them from their ancestors, which in this case is the body, by 1.5 times, right? And later on, we will be placing them atop this image. So for now, let's add in a Z index of 2. So this means that it will be overlapping here, overlapping our image right here, right? So for now, that's all we need to do. And let's go ahead and place them, each letter, on their corresponding spots, right? Oh, before we forget, we will be placing them here, so it will be better to put them inside blocks, right? Or let's put them in side borders, right? So for example, let's add in a border of 3.5 pixels for them, as so. And let's also add in a parameter of your display to be a block, or which is better, is inline block, so that they will have properties of inline. And later on, we can put them side by side. And let's make that border a little circular, maybe about 4 pixels circular, and add in text align, which they will be the center of the border, right? And as of now, we can see the border yet, so let's add in another parameter here, or a value right here, which, let's say this is a solid border, like so, right? And that's it for now. So let's go ahead and position our first key right here, which is our E key. So for example, we want to push him down. Let's add in some space from the top, right? So let's say this is 300 pixels. So let's see how that looks. So our E is now placed below, right? So 300 pixels from the top has been pushed. And let's push it to the right with a left attribute right here, or property right here. And let's say let's push it maybe about 500 pixels to the right. So as we can see, it's quite lacking, right? Not quite there yet. So let's add in, or let's reduce, so let's push it up. Let's reduce this to 290 maybe from the top. So not quite there yet. Maybe let's add in 3 more. That looks to be about in the center to me. So now let's just push it to the right, right? Maybe about 10 more pixels, or let's say 20. A little more, maybe 3 more. Now that looks to be in the dead center for me. So let's do the same for the others as well. So for the R key, let's do the same. And let's see. Now from the top, they should be on the same place, right? With the E, since they are on the same row, right? Now from the left, it has to be more than 523, since it will be on the right side of the E, right? So let's add in a left of maybe, let's add in 40 more, so 563 pixels here. Just fix this up, and it's still lacking a little bit, so let's try this. 573, not quite there yet. Let's add in maybe 20 more. Now that looks to be in the dead center for me as well. Now what we can see here is that they are about 593 minus 523 pixels apart, so that's 70 pixels apart. So now that we know each key is 70 pixels apart, so let's take a note of that. So 70 pixels apart. Now that we know that, we can go ahead and compute the next of the keys, and let's position them strategically with 70 pixels as their intervals. So let's go ahead and do those. So after putting in the keys, we can see here that all of the keys now possess each of their places in the Soundboard app, right? Now that we have our designs down, let's go ahead and add some functionality to our Soundboard app. Now, the only thing that we need to do is, of course, play the sounds when each key code is triggered or is pressed, right? So let's create in a function right here and call it our play sound function, since we need to play in a sound, right? And let's declare a variable here. Let's say this is called the key code, and we'll take in a key press right here. So an event parameter should be placed inside here, since we will be waiting for an event, which is, of course, the key press, right? Or the keyboard down event. Similarly, we can also use the modern JavaScript syntax, right, of declaring variables, which is the arrow function. So we can also say const play sound and pass in the parameter of the e and the arrow function and the code block right here. So each of these are similar. This just uses the arrow key syntax, right? And let's declare another element right here, which we will call the key element. And it will get, or it will pass a parameter of the key press from our HTML document, right? So for this concept, we will be passing in a parameter of the data key from our key divs right here. So each of these have different values, right? Now to access this without typing them, we will use the concept of template literals. So this concept is good when we are passing parameters with strings on them. So to do that, we have to type in the backticks, right? And pass it the parameters. So the divs will have the index of their data key, and their data keys have values that pertains to the value of their key code. So let's pass that in using the key code for the template literal like so, right? And let's add in the semicolons on the end and word wrap this as well by using Alt-Z. Now, this line right here is for us to get the key element or the key press from our HTML code. So if no keys are pressed, let's say if sorry, this should be key element. If no keys are pressed or no keys were detected right here, each of the key codes weren't triggered, then we should just exit the function or play no sound at all, right? So our if statement right here takes in a boolean value, which is in this case, if this is not true, or this denotes the not property, right? So if this is not true or no keys are pressed, we should just exit the function. And let's go ahead and access right now the audio. So let's say we have another variable here called the audio element. This time we should pass in the same as this one. So let's copy paste this. But instead of getting the keys, right? Instead of getting the keys, we will now get in the audio. So if we can remember, right, right here, each key corresponds to the data key of 84, right? So an audio tag with an attribute of data key and their corresponding key code. So we are accessing each of those using template literals right here. Let's expand that so you can see in one line, like so. So this line gets the key presses, and this line gets the audio for each key press, like so. And let's say that this variable has a current time of 0, so that each audio that will be played will start from 0 seconds. And let's play that audio with the .play function. So that is it. Now to play the audio, let's add in an event listener on our window right here. In an event of a key down or a key press, let's call the function play sound, this one, and let's see if that works. So for example, let's press in E on our website right here. Oh, so we can see here that when we press E, nothing's happening, right? Since we forgot to link our script file. And to do that, we need to have a script tag right here, or script source right here, and let's pass in the file name for our script. Just script.js. So, and let's see if our event listener is working right now. So as you can see, everything is working right now. But we have no way of knowing which keys are currently pressed, right? So maybe we can add in another variable that lets us keep track of which keys are currently pressed, right? So let's call this as key shortcut. And let's use again the template literals for this one, so that we can access the key presses, right? And log it to our console. Log to our console this key shortcut right here. So if we will inspect, right, and view our console. So for example, I will press in R. So we can see each of the key presses, right? So we can know that each key press are now pressed, but that's only for the back end, right? Or you can only see that through the console. But what if I want to see it on the interface itself? So let's add in another style for this, and let's add in a background color. Of let's say the hex for maroon. So each of the key when pressed will show a maroon background every time we press it, right? Oh, sorry, should be style. Just style right here. So now we can see that if we press this, right, the element selected will have a red color, but we want this to end at a certain time, right? So let's add in a timeout function, and let's say that this will have a form of an arrow function, right? And our key element should return after certain time a background color of nothing. So it should remove the background color after a certain time, a certain delay, which in this case, let's say 100 milliseconds, right? So let's try that out. So after we press the corresponding key, the color is gone, right? After 100 milliseconds interval, right? So now that our soundboard looks pretty much done, maybe we can remove this blocks right here so that we can see the interface better, right? So we just put in the borders since we wanted to see that they fit inside the key. So let's remove that now. Let's add in no color for the borders to remove them, and let's see H key press, right? Now that we can see each key press on our GUI as well, not just on our console, right? So what if we want to change the sounds on each of our key press? So for example, I want to change the E right here. Let's change the key of E right here to a local file, not from a local repository. So let's change the source here to a local file. So maybe we'll add in a new folder right here, and let's add in some audio files right here. And for me, I have some downloaded audio files here, and maybe I'm gonna add that right here right now. So I just dragged in this boom.mp3 file right here, and let's add it to our E key by adding in / click on audio and click this one. So if we will test that out, when I press E, the boom sound is now accessed. So if you want your local sounds to be played as well, or downloaded sounds, you can do that as well by adding in some audio files to your soundboard, right? So that is how you create a virtual soundboard app. And on your own, you can try adding in some keys to this last 4 keys as well, using the key codes and adding some audio sources to this as well. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you learned how to create your very own virtual soundboard app. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.